Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Justin Young, and he is Josh Check, and this is Just a Minute, the weekly podcast on HoopSeen.com. Josh, what's happening, my friend?
Oh, man, not too much, JY. Just keeping busy over here, staying in basketball gyms around Georgia.
We're video bloggers now. What does that make us in the .com world? I don't know what hierarchy that puts us in, but here we are for a second straight week here on the old video camera.
Yeah, man. Hey, you gotta advance with the times, you know?
I know. I don't know if the good Lord made this face made for video or not, but we'll run with it and see with what we've got going on. But we want to do this on a pretty regular basis. There's tons of stuff to talk about, obviously, as we're getting ready for the scholastic season, the collegiate season, the NBA season is already tipped off. International play is starting. I'm not sure what category Overtime Elite and the G League is, but they're starting. So we've got a lot of things to talk about. We're going to talk about them right here on the show this week on Just a Minute. So I think that's the main thing. We're going to talk a lot about who the top team is in the country. Is it Montverde? Is it AZ Compass Prep? Is it somebody else? And more importantly, who is the freaking top guy in the nation? I think we both have some strong opinions on that. We're going to talk a little bit about the rankings and, of course, a couple other things. But let's just jump right into it, Josh. Cameron Boozer, guy's a freaking man. The guy is the freaking man. I don't know what else we can do, what else we can say. I know there was some conversation about, hey, is he the top guy in 2025 or is it Cooper Flagg? I think that argument, at least where we stand now, based on what we've seen over the last week, is that not only is he the best guy in 25, he's probably the best guy in the country too, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that at this point that he's, separated himself in that top spot in 2025. Last night when I was at OTE for their opening day, he had 28 and 20, 28 points, 20 rebounds, and he did it efficiently too. This kid is 15 years old, JY, 15.
I know. I tweeted out kind of tongue-in-cheek that he really ruined some return on investment last night playing overtime in their multi-million-dollar arena in downtown Atlanta playing against all these pros. And I watched the live stream, which was an interesting experience in and of itself, just kind of watching the chat and kind of seeing what the peanut gallery says. But I think universally we all agree that Cameron Boozer is a freaking stud. I saw him last week in the Border League out here in the West in Las Vegas. And, that Columbus team certainly didn't have the depth that I think that you see a lot of these other teams play. They played AZ Compass right out of the gate. We're going to talk about them a little bit later. But, I think for the first time in a long time, Mookie Cook, who's going to Oregon, who we have in our top three, gave Cameron Boozer a lot of fits for at least 15 minutes of action. It really made him really work. And then I think what that did is it just poked the bear, and we saw Cameron Boozer do what he does. But last night was, I don't know if you're watching this, go to YouTube. I think you can find the full game there. Go watch it. Like for you, Josh, when you watch Cameron, give me how do you describe him and what is it about him that makes you say, okay, forget the classes, he is the top guy by comparison of all the other classes of high school hoops?
Dude, that is a great question, because it's one of those where it's we could have an entire show just about Cameron Boozer.
We might.
We honestly might, and I think we could. But I'm going to keep it, try and keep it as succinct as I can. Last night, what he did that separated himself from me was his defense. First of all, he guarded 1 through 5, legitimately guarded 1 through 5 as a 6'9" forward who, once again, 15 years old. He locked up everybody. And then on the other end, his passing. Forget about scoring, forget about all that. His passing and his defense are the two things that separate him from everything else. And, with those two, you could see his knowledge of the game and his decision-making is just phenomenal.
The passing's interesting. So Paolo Banchero was there watching the game last night. They play the Hawks on Friday night. Orlando does. And I think that was one of the things when you look at that group at the top of that class, it was Paolo Banchero, Chet Holmgren, and Jabari Smith. The thing that I always, I'm a big Jabari guy. I always kind of lean towards Jabari given their head-to-head stuff. But the thing that always made me pause a little bit was that passing ability that Banchero brings to the table. And I think now when you look at the NBA, you've got to have that element like LeBron, I'm not calling Cameron Boozer LeBron, but LeBron, elite passer, right? Great feel for the game. And I think, I was wondering about this too. His twin brother Caden, a 6'5" guard, can really shoot. I think he's a great passer. I wonder if having that built-in relationship and built-in ability. I mean, even though your dad's an Olympic medalist and a champion at the at any level at the collegiate and unbelievable NBA career with Carlos Boozer. But when you have a twin brother that you grow up in the gym with, I do wonder how much that enhances just your overall feel and your skill and your ability to know how to make the right pass. But yeah, that passing on top of being able to attack the rim, that face-up shot is deadly. And again, the part that just continuously blow my mind is he's 15, right? Like, that's nuts. Like, do you have fears though? Like, we've done this before with other players, right? Most recently, Imani Bates. Like, oh my God, he was the best 15-year-old I've ever seen. Like, how do we temper excitement all the while being authentic to an opinion that I think universally in the industry feels pretty strongly that he is the guy that could be a difference maker long term?
Well, with that, I just think that we kind of learn from past mistakes. Like,
Yeah.
we don't treat it like Cameron Boozer is like the greatest prospect since X. We can just treat it
Sure.
in the here and now. We can just talk about what he's done successfully recently. Like last night, he was a great defender. Last night, he was a great passer. He finished athletically. He shot the ball well. And that's what we can talk about right there. We can talk about what is in front of us, as opposed to
Yeah.
making all these grand claims about, he's the greatest since this or since that or whatever. We can just talk about,
I think there's a handful of people in the industry that have context enough to know where he does rank. Selfishly, I think I'm part of that conversation of those guys. I think it is a piece that I do want to write. When I think about him in context over the last 20, 25 years, where does he stack up? And I think off the top of my head, he's right there. He's probably in my top 10, maybe even higher than that. Like, it's hard to deny what we've seen from him. And again, if you have a chance to go watch what they did last night, to go do that. Tell me some of the guys that were on that OTE team that he played against.
I have it right here, actually. You'll have to forgive me. I don't remember exactly. So on that OTE team, he played Jazz Gortman. He played Jalen Martin, Kanan Carlisle, Alexander Sarr, a European prospect. He played Nas Cunningham, who, is a top 2024 guy. He played TJ Clark from here in Atlanta. He played Bryson Warren and Jaw Jackson. So that's, a pretty good solid list of older upperclassmen kind of prospects.
Yeah. The gauntlet they ran in Las Vegas was also really tough. I think it's hard when you get a first round matchup against AZ Compass. Certainly no easy task for anybody. We're going to talk about them here in a second. Let's kind of wrap things up with what you saw on Thursday night in downtown or midtown Atlanta at OTE. What other lessons learned did you come away from that experience last night on their opening night, which is I thought it was pretty awesome, to be quite frank. Like, they did a really nice job, set it up. That arena is beautiful. Definitely different from what we're used to. But what were your final takeaways from that?
So, yeah, real quick, that's one of my takeaways is it's just a different experience. I think if you're a basketball family and you're looking for an entertainment, pure entertainment thing, you can't get any better than that OTE experience. It was really entertaining, really fun. But on the court, I think the City Reapers team that they have is going to be a really fun team to watch. You have Eli Ellis at the point guard. You have Big Santos Cyril down there at the forward center spot, and then you have the Thompson twins on the wing. And what I like about that team is that they all have a HoopSeen connection. We got to see the Thompson twins as part of our HoopSeen association. We got to see Santos Cyril be one of the MVPs of Bob Gibbons' Tournament of Champions. We got to see Eli Ellis and his flair for the dramatic hit a game-winning shot in the Bob Gibbons Tournament of Champions. And all of those guys did all those things that we got to see them on the grassroots circuit. They did all those last night. So.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. And it, to be almost right down the road, right? Like, just, go down 85 and you're all of a sudden you're down in Atlantic Station at that arena. So if you are a hoops junkie and if you get a chance to go down there, I think it is a cool place to go watch games. I know talking to a lot of NBA guys and talking to some college guys, like you said, it's a unique experience to go down there. So I know we'll be talking about them quite a bit this year here on the Just a Minute podcast, as well as the Thompson twins and a number of other players that kind of go through there. It's funny. I'm in Arizona. You're in Atlanta. We had a connection though in the hoop universe where you had a chance to see Montverde. I had a chance to see Montverde in back-to-back weekends. So I think there's some really cool, dialogue that we can have there with the Eagles out of Montverde in Florida. Kevin Boyle's program, no stranger to the very top of all the rankings. But I've, maybe it's biased to where I'm at here in the Phoenix area, but I've seen a lot of AZ Compass prep, and those two teams battled it out in an unbelievable overtime game for the top flight division at the Border League. You can also go find that game too. Actually, you know what? I'm a big advocate of YouTube TV. So if you have that, go back and watch it, or wherever you find your internet games of the Border League. I think that's a game worth watching. That begs the question then, who is the top team in the country? I don't know if we know yet. I'm not a big fan of preseason polls because we don't really know what's happening, but these events give us some sort of talking points. Josh, let's kind of have a little debate here. I want you to make the case of Montverde of why they're number one, and I'll make the case why I think AZ Compass Prep is number one. We'll start with you just because I think Montverde has earned that right to be able to go first.
Sure. Yeah. So I think the Montverde strength is their front line. They have, 5 guys in the front court that are either better or just as good as anybody else's front line. You have Cooper Flagg. You have Sean Stewart, who's just big time motor man. You have Derek Queen, who's super skilled around the basket. You have Asen Newell coming off the bench. You have a guy like KJ Evans as well that you can throw down there. But where I think they're really, going to be dangerous at is in their development in the backcourt. So Chris Johnsnon was, your MVP from the Border League. And I think that they have more guys who can step up, like Curtis Givens. We haven't seen the best of him yet with Montverde, but he is a really skilled guard. And Dre Gibbs Lawhorn, when I got to see them in Florida, he was, in street clothes. So I don't know if he's got an injury or what's going on there. But as soon as he hits the floor for them, he's going to be able to provide, extra scoring, extra ball handling. So I think that their backcourt hasn't even rounded into form yet. And if, once all those guys get together and they're all gelling, I think that's going to make them even more dangerous than they already are.
We have a chance to see them quite often in the NIBC, an unbelievable league of the top teams in the country. These teams played each other quite a bit last year, really over the last couple of years. Now that AZ is a full-fledged member of that, it's going to be fun to kind of watch this rivalry on two different coasts kind of battle it out, if you will. For me, AZ Compass, I think they have the most versatile guy in the country in Mookie Cook. What we talked about earlier with him guarding Cameron Boozer was the first time where I've seen Boozer really kind of stumped. It was 2 from 7 from the floor, and I think Cook had a lot to do with that. And Cook is an interesting guy too because he's not really a guy that puts fear into your heart as a perimeter scorer or as a shot maker. I think he's an unbelievable slasher. I think he's an unbelievable rebounder and passer and creator, defender. But usually when you're talking about like a guy at the upper echelon, like top 3, top 5, there's an offensive component to him that makes him really dynamic. And I'm not sure Cook is that. That's not a knock at all. That just, I think, goes to the strength and the versatility that he is. And he is the anchor point for this team. Zayden High, I think, going back to your point about the front line, there's always been great front line play from Montverde, and they do a really good job of using their bigs as pick and pop guys. But I thought Zayden High, who recently committed to North Carolina at the Border League on TV, is going to give the Tar Heels a rebounding element that they don't really that they usually have in a long and athletic guy. Love what he brings to the table. But then when you look at the rest of the team, I mean, they got so much depth. You've got, Rayvon Griffin. You got Pierce, who's going to Missouri, who just, still trying to get into the rotation. They've got an X factor guy too. And I think Montverde's question that you have is also the question that I have for AZ Compass is their backcourt. And Terrence Hill, a guy out of Portland, Oregon, a 2024 guy. We've seen Mookie Cook come from Portland. Lamar Washington, who's now at Texas Tech, is also from Portland. So that Portland connection, I think, is going to play a big factor. You've got, you've got Ross, who's at St. Mary's, commit out of Utah. That's also at the point guard position there for Montverde. You got True Washington, to me, the most underrated guy in the country right here in Phoenix. Is Ty Washington's uncle, so you've got that competitiveness. So to me, I think to your point, why I would argue that AZ Compass is going to be the top team is their backcourt depth by a hair. Yeah. Because I think they can match what they do internally. We're going to see this matchup quite a bit. In fact, I was talking to my buddy Travis Haddock, who's got the National Hoop Fest, the Five for the Fight National Hoop Fest, which is going to be in Pleasant Grove, Utah. Really in about a month, I think a month's time from when we're recording this podcast. We'll be there, have coverage from that. You can watch that game also on ESPN. You can also go get tickets for that if that's something that you want to go do. But, man, I think that this is a matchup that I'm excited to see. Also, we got to remember Sunrise is going to be in the conversation. Link's going to be in the conversation. IMG is going to be in the conversation. A lot of the same and the familiar faces that we see in high school hoops. But because of what we've saw over the last couple of weeks, I thought we want to have a good debate about those two teams and who really makes the case. But I'm obviously going to have to be biased now that I'm a West Coast guy, Josh. And I'm going to have to stay with the guys here in Cactus Land. I think AZ Compass, for me, is a team that I'm excited to watch them grow. Obviously, you've got to go. I get where you're at. You got to go with Montverde, right?
Yeah. Hey, Florida's my second home. I love spending time down there. So yeah, I'm a Montverde homer all day long.
I mean, I can't get mad at you there. Let's switch it up a little bit here and go through a rankings rundown. Okay. I think we saw a lot of stuff. You also had a chance to see, we had another connection where I saw Bronny James last week at the Border League. You saw Bronny James in downtown Atlanta. And I think we both came away with some thoughts on him. It's hard being the son of a GOAT, right? Mm-hmm. Like the immense pressure that comes with that is really, really hard to live up to. When you saw Bronny there in Atlanta, what was your takeaway when you drove home after watching him compete with Sierra Canyon?
Yeah, so he was one of my guys at that event, and I think that his development since I last saw him back in the spring on the EYBL circuit has grown. He's grown immensely. And where I think he's grown specifically is as a pure point guard. His passing, his ability to create for others, and then his ability to shoot and score when he needs to. All of that's rounding into form. Athletically, he's super gifted. So I think we had him a little bit lower than the industry because we didn't see the Peach Jam blow up. And I think you would agree with me on this. We are not guys who are going to buy into the hype. We've got to see it before we actually believe it. So now that we've both gotten to see it, it's like, okay, yeah, we did have him a little bit lower than than he probably should have been.
My thought was when I'm watching him in Vegas that, obviously if he's not who he is, if he doesn't have the name that he does and the platform that he's had since he was an infant, basically, I think we would be talking about a guy that's on the senior season blow up, which to me is really critical and really important when you look at guys like, Devin Vassell comes to mind, who's with the San Antonio Spurs, who I think is in for a really good season. He was a senior season blow up guy. And I think Bronny's kind of in that category where his best basketball, we might be getting ready to see that this season because of what you talked about, his overall game feel at the point guard position. He was a shot maker. I saw him shoot the ball really, really well in Las Vegas on a big stage. 31 points, only missed, I think 2 shots on the whole game on the opening night. So, we have him at 70. We're wrong on that. I think Bronny James is in store for an unbelievable college experience. I think what we have to be careful with, and what I mean by we is just basketball opinionators, of instantly crowning him and putting him in the NBA. Like, it's really hard to go do that. Now, he may have a different entry point because of who he is and because of what LeBron demands, and who knows what the Lakers are going to ever do. But to expect him to come in and be a guy that can play in the NBA is really hard and really unfair. And maybe our ranking had a lot to do with that. But I'm with you. I think our ranking needs to change for him. And I think he's going to make a significant come up in our update, which is probably going to happen by the time this even hits the internet, Josh. So I think that'll reflect pretty well for Bronny James. Another guy, you talked about him earlier. We have him ranked almost as high as anybody, if not higher than anybody, is Chris Johsnon, the Kansas commit. At number 28. We saw him back at the Grassroots Showcase last year in Louisville, and he was tremendous there. I thought he did a really good job, out of Missouri City, Texas, an unbelievable score. And Kansas, there's no doubt, does a tremendous job with guys like Chris Johsnon. 28 to me still feels very, very low. Did you happen to see him at all on the broadcast from the Border League?
No, I didn't catch him on the at the Border League, but I saw him with Montverde.
Oh, you did? Yeah, that's right.
He was great there. Like that's where I was kind of like, oh yeah. In my head, I was like, we might have this guy a little bit too low because he did a great job leading all of those bigs, And what I loved about him is that he kind of led Montverde on this unselfish play. Like he was distributing the ball to everybody. He wasn't, jacking up shots. And I think that kind of energy fed off on everybody else because all their bigs were passing after that. And I think he's just kind of a leader on that team by example.
Yeah, I mean, he can absolutely go get a bucket. There's a scoring element to him that's hard to deny, where I actually think he can be a top 5 scorer in the Big 12 and really, really thrive under Bill Self. So we're going to move him from 28 to number 20 overall in the class of 23. I always forget what year we're in. 2023, I think, is where we're gonna have Chris. Sorry, number 20 in the class of 2023. There we go. I knew where I was going with that somewhere. I feel really good about R.J. Jones at number 34. He's playing for Wasatch Academy. I'm going to see him quite a bit. For me, part of ranking goes a lot into consideration is where they're going to school and opportunity that they have. And with Jerome Tang now at Kansas State, I've written about this before. R.J. Jones is a tremendous shot maker. He's a tremendous scorer. He's got a great feel. He's got a college body. And if you look at all the guards that have had success over the years, when Jerome Tang was at Baylor, you can't tell me that R.J. Jones can't be in position where that guy might score 1,500, 1,600, 1,700, maybe 2,000 points in college. I think opportunity is there for him to be an all-time great, to be quite frank, at Kansas State because of his scoring punch. I really like him at number 34 because of that fit. Maybe even deserves maybe consideration for even more, but we're going to see Wasatch Academy quite a bit this year, where we can kind of go through that as well. AJ Johnson running things out at Donda Academy is really, really low on our side. We have a number 39. A lot of people have him inside their top 20. You can see why. You can absolutely see why. Long, lean, ball handler, shot maker, but is kind of inconsistent, trying to figure out his body still. I think Donda's still trying to figure out who they are. You got Robert Dillingham, who requires a lot of volume, who had some good moments and some not good moments. And I think A.J. Johnson, is trying to figure out his role there. But if there's a guy in our rankings that could make a significant jump, still, I think A.J. Johnson's that guy. We missing anybody? Did we tackle everybody in this little rankings rundown?
Yeah, I think so. Real quick, you mentioned Robert Dillingham, and last night he was pretty awesome for
Yeah, I heard. Yeah,
this cobbled together team that they put together with it was essentially just an all-star team of prospects, and he shined in that game. He was 36 points, and he was just hitting shots from all over the place. He was really fun to watch.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of fun to watch, let's play a little buy or sell right here, Josh Tech. What do you think? What do you say?
Let's do it.
Okay. So there's conversation. And there's been some really good points on both sides of the argument. 68, we went from 64 teams to 68 teams in the NCAA tournament. Now there's talk about, hey, man, we need to let more people into the NCAA tournament. Are you buying or selling expansion of the greatest thing that we have in sports, the college tournament? Buy or sell, adding more teams to this thing?
I'm selling. Capital S, capital E, capital L, sell. We do not need to expand this at all anymore. After that, it loses its luster a little bit. You're just letting everybody in at that point. At that point, you could get teams in the NCAA tournament that could potentially have losing records or 500 records. And at that point, it's just whatever. It kind of becomes those opening rounds of the NCAA tournament or Selection Sunday, one of the most celebrated days on the calendar, becomes one of those meaningless college football bowl games that you just have on in the background. It loses all of its luster in that point.
Hey, have you watched the show on Hulu, Welcome to Wrexham?
I have not.
Okay, so for those that are watching, Welcome to Wrexham is this unbelievable show with Ryan Reynolds and Rob McNally, two actors. Rob McNally is on Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool and a lot of other stuff. They bought a secondary pro level soccer team in Wales. And in the English Premier League, they have a thing called relegation where you basically can play your way into basically NBA, right? You could be like a CBA team or something to give a comparison on the American level, that you can be a semi-pro team and essentially play your way into the pro league. And so they follow they bought this team and they follow their season and their process of trying to make the English Premier League. I love the show. I'm totally hooked to it. Fascinating. I love the idea of relegation. I actually think the idea would work for college basketball instead of talking about expansion. Hey, man, why is Murray State going to always have to be stuck in the Ohio Valley Conference, right? Why is Gonzaga, who's so much better than everybody in the Pac-12, let's let them level up, if you will, within the conferences in college basketball. It'll never happen. Never, ever, ever happen, because great ideas in college sports never work well, because even though they are the best ideas, they never go into play because of all the money involved. But I'm with you, Josh. Why are we expanding something that's so good? The reason why it's so good is because the size that it is. Your favorite restaurant sometimes maybe expands. They add a new wing. They add a new page to their menu. Well, they're no longer the thing that they're great at. They're just okay at everything else. And I think with expansion, I think we could agree. However, I would love to see some sort of level up for teams that never make the tournament. Don't give them the chance to make the tournament, man.
Yeah.
Let somebody else get in there. Let those teams that are winning 28 games a year, let them kind of go that direction. It'll never happen, but that's
so with that, I think we could even take that idea and make it take it a step further. And if you're just performing poorly, perennially, you're at a D1. We don't need it. We don't even need
Let's go, Josh. Let's go.
We not every team in that is associated with a college needs to be in D1. At this point, it's 363 teams. That's way too much. So.
I love the idea. It'll never happen. Too much money involved. But I like this idea of buy or sell. I think we've got some more ideas that we can throw into this category in future podcasts down the road. On tap, Josh, run through what do we have coming around the corner on HoopSeen.com.
All right, so on HoopSeen.com, we're going to have more coverage of OTE because I'm going to be there tonight again, and I'm going to be at their pro day on Tuesday. And then after that, we're going to be shifting the focus towards high schools. We're going to have Georgia high school coverage. We're going to have Florida high school coverage. We're going to have Alabama high school coverage. We're going to have the entire South covered. JB is going to cover North Carolina. You're going to cover out West. So, now that we've turned the page from fall preview camps, it's all high school from here. So, get ready for previews and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, if you're not an insider now, I'd highly encourage you to go do so. We have a lot on tap. Man, we're gonna be in holiday events before you know it. I mean, literally right around the corner. Some great stuff
I'm
on
planning
tap.
my schedule already. I'll be hitting the ground as hard as I ever do.
I love it. I love it. Well, we hope you enjoy this. If you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you do what the kids say: like and subscribe, hit the bell, all those things that make the algorithms work. We want to see these two ugly faces on the internet as much as humanly possible, make our mothers proud. Make sure you share this with people. We're going to get this podcast going every single week. You're going to see a lot of our team over the next couple of weeks. Justin Byerly, Josh Tech, Michael Constantines, and who else? You never know who else we may have on the pod coming up. We'll be talking about all kinds of stuff. We hope you enjoyed this, and we hope you enjoy future podcasts right here on HoopSeen.com.